The oldest so far identified pillar in Göbekli Tepe, which maybe Jamie can call up, it's pillar 43 in enclosure D at Göbekli Tepe.
Archaeologists found a detail on pillar 43 that proves ancient people were watching the sky for a specific reason. This pillar, known as the Vulture Stone, is packed with symbols that look like a mess at first.
The idea that the sky in some way determines our destinies is a very ancient idea, not a recent idea.
But when you look at it through the lens of the stars, patterns emerge. This was not just a decoration, it was a data center. It points to a specific moment when the world changed. It is a memorial for a day the sky rained fire and the world entered a dark age. Hidden mountain giants. Moving 20-ton stone blocks without wheels requires hundreds of men and a level of teamwork that hunters supposedly did not have. To understand the scale of this place, one must look at the Ceres Mountains in Turkey. Huge T-shaped pillars stand in perfect circles, some reaching 18 feet tall. These builders did not have metal tools or horses to help. They moved these limestone giants by hand, pulling them uphill from a quarry hundreds of yards away. This suggests they had a supply chain and a social order that should not have existed 12,000 years ago. You have to feed those hundreds of workers, and the nearest water is miles away. This implies a fully formed civilization just popped up out of nowhere. The engineering alone is enough to make anyone stop and think. For years, experts said these carvings were just for spirits or luck. But the conversation has shifted, and that is putting it lightly. People used to think farming came first, then temples. Göbekli Tepe proves that humans were building massive things long before they ever planted a single seed. It throws the old timeline into the trash. The carvings are high-relief sculptures that stick out from the stone, showing foxes, boars, and scorpions. These are not just doodles, they are part of a massive record-keeping system. The sheer size of the project means someone was in charge. It means there was a plan. It means these people were not just wandering around looking for food. They were staying in one place to finish a giant project. This level of focus is something we usually only see in much later societies. Things get even crazier when you look at the specific animals chosen for these pillars. Pillar 43 is the smoking gun that changes everything we know about the ancient world. It is often called the Vulture Stone because of the large bird carved into the center. At first, it looks like a chaotic mix of animals, but researchers found that the scorpion represents the constellation Scorpius. The bull is Taurus, and the lion represents Leo. They were mapping the stars with a precision that is hard to believe. You do not drag 20-ton stones up a hill just for fun. You do it because you need to remember something huge. What most people do not realize is that these carvings might be the oldest date ever recorded. They are drawing the stars as they looked at a very specific moment in time. When experts use computers to wind back the clock of the stars, a terrifying date appears. It matches a time when the world changed forever. This was a complex calendar that proves they were thousands of years ahead of their time. If the builders had a working solar calendar 9,600 years before the Common Era, it means they knew the Earth moved around the sun. History books say the Greeks were the first to figure this out, but they were thousands of years too late. There is even a carving of a bird holding a V shape around its neck like a necklace. This is thought to be a marker for the summer solstice. The odds of these animals matching the sky by accident are 1 in millions. It is like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. These people were obsessed with time. They were not just tracking seasons for food, they were tracking a cycle of the Earth that takes 26,000 years to complete. This is a slow wobble that most people never notice in their entire life. To see it, you need to keep records for hundreds of years. This means they had a class of scientists who did nothing but watch the stars. The precision of the stonework suggests this was not their first attempt at building. Knowledge from the survivors. The perfection of Göbekli Tepe is a major clue that we are missing a significant part of the human story, a missing chapter that defies the conventional timeline of progress. Usually in history, we see a logical progression of small, messy tries before a big, perfect result. We expect to see a mud hut before a stone castle or a crude campfire before a complex kiln. Yet this site appears fully formed and architecturally perfect right from its inception. There is no evidence of a learning phase in the surrounding area. There are no smaller, clumsier versions of these massive T-shaped pillars hiding in the hills. This sudden arrival of high-level engineering suggests a transfer of technology rather than a slow, local discovery. It feels as though a group of people arrived on that Turkish hillside already knowing exactly how to quarry stone, how to carve intricate 3D reliefs of animals, and how to align massive structures with the stars. Perhaps survivors from a previous lost civilization fled to the mountains when their coastal homes were destroyed. At the end of the last ice age, sea levels rose by nearly 400 feet as the great ice sheets melted. We must consider that the prime real estate of the ancient world, the fertile coastlines where people would naturally congregate, is now hundreds of feet underwater. These refugees may have brought their math, their sophisticated building skills, and their detailed star maps with them to higher ground. They didn't just survive, they attempted to reboot civilization. The carvings on the pillars act like a timestamp for a crime scene, preserving a memory of a world that was ending just as this one was beginning. The symbols are not merely decorative or a simple calendar. They are a deliberate record of a global trauma. Some researchers look at the strange H symbols and the mysterious handbags carved on the pillars and suspect the meaning goes even deeper than simple art. These same handbag symbols, held by figures that look like teachers or gods, show up in the ancient art of Sumer, the stone carvings of Mexico, and the traditional lore of New Zealand. How did cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years all use the exact same specific stylized symbol? Some think it represents a kit of knowledge, a literal or metaphorical container for the seeds of civilization, whether those seeds were physical grains or the mental building blocks of law, agriculture, and science. The H symbols might represent the bridge between the earth and the sky, or perhaps the connection between the survivors and those they were trying to teach. There is also the haunting mystery of how the site sounds. The stone circles were not just built to be looked at, they may have been designed to be heard. Some believe the limestone pillars were tuned to ring at certain notes, acting like massive tuning forks. When you clap, drum, or chant inside these circular enclosures, the sound changes, resonating in a way that feels physical. Some even wonder if sound technology, now lost to us, was used to help move and position the heavy stones, which weigh up to 20 tons. While that sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, we know that acoustic levitation can lift small objects in laboratories today. To the builders of Göbekli Tepe, the site might have been a laboratory of resonance and frequency as much as it was a temple. The link to our modern world becomes even more concrete when we look at the genetics of what we eat. Genetic experts have traced all modern einkorn wheat back to a single mountain, Karakada, located just 20 miles away from the site. This means the very first act of farming, the transition from wandering to settling, started right where the first giant temple was built. This flips our understanding of history on its head. We used to think people started farming, got a surplus of food, and then had the free time to build temples. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. The need to gather for a massive religious or commemorative project forced people to invent farming just to feed the workers. It is the ground zero for the modern world, the place where the hunter-gatherer died and the citizen was born. The message etched into the rock is a memorial for a global disaster that nearly wiped us out. The Vulture Stone, one of the most famous pillars at the site, points to a date roughly 12,800 years ago. This is the exact start of a period of climate chaos called the Younger Dryas. Before this time, the Earth was warming up after the last ice age, and life was becoming easier. Then, almost overnight, the planet fell back into a deep freeze. Temperatures dropped by 15 degrees in just a decade, a climate whiplash that the modern world is lucky to have never experienced. Giant animals like mammoths and saber-toothed cats, which had survived for millions of years, simply vanished. The carvings on the pillars show a headless man, a symbol that in ancient art almost universally signifies mass death or a cataclysmic event. Next to these figures, there are symbols that look like swarms of snakes or falling birds. Researchers increasingly believe these are not animals, but a depiction of a meteor shower. A giant comet, perhaps 60 miles wide, may have broken apart in space. As Earth passed through the debris trail, we were hit by huge chunks of fire and ice. These fragments would have exploded in the atmosphere with the force of thousands of nuclear bombs. This impact caused massive wildfires that burned 10% of all plants and trees on Earth, followed by a nuclear winter as smoke blocked the sun. We have physical, undeniable proof of this today. Scientists have found a layer of platinum in the soil from this exact time across several continents. Platinum is extremely rare in the Earth's crust, but very common in comets. They also found tiny nanodiamonds and magnetic microspherules that only form under the extreme heat and pressure of a space impact. Geologists call this the black mat. It is a thin, dark layer of soil found in the Earth all over the world. Below it, you find the bones of the megafauna and the sophisticated spear points of early humans. Above it, you find nothing for centuries. It is a literal line of death in the ground. Göbekli Tepe is the memorial built by the people who lived through that fire. They realized they were living in a fragile window of time and needed to preserve the knowledge of what had happened so it would not be forgotten by future generations. Perhaps the most mysterious part of the story is how the site ended. After 1,300 years of use, the people who built Göbekli Tepe did something unthinkable. They didn't just abandon it, they carefully and deliberately buried it. They filled the circles with clean dirt and rubble, preserving the carvings perfectly. It wasn't destroyed by an enemy, it was put into a time capsule. They hid their knowledge under the earth, perhaps waiting for a time when a future civilization would be advanced enough to dig it up and understand the warning. They left us a message in stone telling us that the stars can bring life, but they can also bring fire, and that the story of humanity is much older and much more complex than we ever dared to imagine. They did something very strange to make sure the message survived for us. Final warning from the past. The most mysterious part of Göbekli Tepe is that the builders buried it on purpose. They did not just walk away when they were done or leave the site to be reclaimed by nature. Instead, they spent a staggering amount of time and effort filling the circles with dirt, limestone rubble, and animal bones. This backfilling process was almost as much work as building the temple itself, requiring thousands of man-hours to complete. Some researchers think they were trying to protect the pillars from a looming natural disaster or a shifting climate. Others believe they were sealing away old secrets or decommissioning the site once its spiritual purpose was fulfilled. But by burying it, they inadvertently saved it for the future. If the stones had stayed out in the rain and wind for 12,000 years, the carvings would be gone. The soft limestone would have crumbled and the intricate figures of scorpions, vultures, and lions would have been smoothed into nothingness. The message would have been washed away by the tides of time. By putting it in a dirt time capsule, they kept it safe for us to find. Today, nearly 90% of the site is still underground. We are using ground-penetrating radar to see what else is hidden down there, and the scans reveal dozens of other stone circles still waiting to be uncovered. This suggests that what we see now is only the tip of a massive ancient iceberg. Do you think ancient humans were more advanced than we give them credit for, or is this all just a big coincidence? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this mystery, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into lost history.